He stretches out the north over the empty place, and hangs the earth upon nothing. Job 26:7. The world also established that it cannot be moved. Psalm 93:1. Why is this subject important? It's important because if the earth stands fixed in the universe, and the sun, moon, and stars revolve around us, there can be no doubt that we stand on the site of God's special creation. Because of this, a great many people throughout history have attempted to remove Earth from its special place and reduce it to one of many bodies hurtling mechanically through outer space. One thing you should think about is the fact that you have always simply accepted that the Earth rotates and orbits the sun, since before you can even remember. If someone asks you, you'll tell them you believe the Earth orbits the sun, but I think everyone knows deep down that it isn't true. You know, like you know the sky is blue, that the earth stands still. Go outside on a calm day, look up at the sky, and really ask yourself if you're on a planet spinning 1,000 miles per hour and flying through space at over 10 times that speed. Now ask yourself why you ever believed that in the first place. What immaculate evidence ever brought you to such a fantastic conclusion? In this video, I'm going to cover the following points. Number 1, the idea of Earth spinning or revolving around the sun has been promoted since ancient times. Number 2, the individuals that gave rise to the modern-day theory of heliocentrism were immersed in occult and mystical thinking, and even worship of the sun, which influenced their thinking more than scientific experimentation. Number 3, heliocentrism has always been based on philosophical assumptions and not evidence. Number 4, actual scientific experimentation has always demonstrated a motionless Earth, and non-empirical hypothetical models had to be created to try and explain those experiments away. Number 5, through media and school systems, people are continuously indoctrinated into the belief that they are on a spinning Earth hurtling through space, when their observation, experience, and common sense would surely tell them otherwise. Number 6, the Bible strongly supports a motionless Earth and a geocentric model of the universe. Also, moving ahead, I will be quoting a great deal from Marshall Hall of FixedEarth.com, as well as other writers, so don't assume everything spoken here is my own thoughts. Our story begins in the ancient world. Here we find numerous peoples who worship solar deities. The Babylonians, the Egyptians, the Greeks, and the Romans after them all had deep reverence for the god of the sun, the light bearer, the bringer of wisdom, and that is still worshipped everywhere on earth today. The materialistic mysticism of the ancient Greeks is well known. Like I explored in other videos, these people were inclined to believe that the origins of life in the universe itself arose through swirling particles and blind natural forces. Thus, they had no problems about following strange and unfounded ideas about a moving earth. Pythagoras of the 6th century BC was a major influence in the world of Greek mysticism that followed him. He frequented the Egyptian city of Heliopolis, the city of the sun. The culture here was ruled by a priesthood and immersed in mystery teachings of sun worship. Hycetus, Ecphantus, and Heraclitus Ponticus were Pythagorean students, and they all advanced some form of either heliocentrism or a rotating earth. Another Pythagorean, Phillip, of 3rd century BC, stated that all the planets, including the sun and earth, revolve around a central fire. Phillip says that there is fire in the middle at the center. By nature, the middle is the first, and around it dance 10 divine bodies: the sky, the planets, and the sun, the moon, and the earth. All of them, the fire holds position at the center. Phillip further advanced ideas about the earth's rotation around an axis. According to Nicolaus Copernicus, who we'll talk about later, Phillip already proposed the earth's revolution in a circular orbit around the sun. And we'll come back to Phillip a little later and his ideas about a central fire. And then Aristarchus of Samos, 2nd century BC, he was greatly influenced by Phillip, but identified the central fire with the sun, placing it in the center of the universe, with Earth revolving around it. Aristarchus believed the universe to be many times greater than previously thought, and that the stars were also fixed, and that their motions were due to the spinning of the Earth. And Copernicus based a lot of his ideas off Aristarchus, which we'll talk about later. And Seleucus of Seleucia, 2nd century BC, was a Babylonian astronomer, and he strongly supported Aristarchus' model of heliocentrism. And he also ascribed ocean tides to the spinning of the Earth. No records exist of either Aristarchus or Seleucus arguments or evidence for heliocentrism. One would have to ask why these people believed the Earth was whirling and flying through space, when all physical evidence and observation said otherwise. So after that came Ptolemy in 2nd century BC, and he rejected the heliocentric model and constructed a geocentric model with a fixed Earth, which dominated astronomical thinking until the 16th century. And then we move to Nicolaus Copernicus, the 16th century. Most people think Copernicus stumbled upon heliocentrism through his own observations, but actually a couple of his own teachers advanced a sun-centered system, or a moving Earth. One of his astronomy teachers, Albert Brudaszewski, was already said to dislike the geocentric, Earth-centered model. Another of his astronomy teachers was Domenico Maria Novara de Ferrara. Ferrara studied under the German astronomer Regiomontanus, who in turn studied the Pythagorean Aristarchus, and is said to have promoted his heliocentric model. So we have both ancient Greeks and Babylonians, and multiple generations of Copernicus' own astronomy teachers advocating the removal of an Earth-centered model. Copernicus basically borrowed this ancient theory and popularized it, kicking off the, quote, Copernican revolution. He never provided any evidence for a moving Earth or heliocentrism, and instead based the model entirely on assumptions. Tycho Brahe, in the same time as Copernicus, he was a renowned and highly respected astronomer. He rejected the Copernican model of heliocentrism and advanced a geocentric one that became widely accepted for its accuracy and usefulness. Tycho Brahe's geocentric model has never been disproven. The geocentric model is still used today in all the applied sciences, including practical astronomy, space travel, and eclipse predictions. In the last couple years of his life, Tycho formed a partnership with Johannes Kepler, who was a devout heliocentrist. After being suspiciously poisoned to death, all of Tycho's works were conveniently transferred to Kepler due to the partnership. Tycho is even reported to have begged Kepler not to use his work to promote heliocentrism. So, Johannes Kepler, 16th century. He had a religious attachment to a heliocentric universe. He even regarded the sun as, quote, God the Father. It's safe to say Kepler had no problems with seeing Tycho's work on geocentrism flushed down the memory hole and forgotten. 2 generations before Isaac Newton, Kepler conceived of ideas about gravity, written alongside various lunatic fantasies. He wrote about a group of demons that lived in the shadow of the moon, which could travel to the Earth during lunar eclipses. He also believed the moon was covered with alien creatures. Kepler's own mother, who had at one time been charged with 49 counts of witchcraft, was written by Kepler to have constantly communed with the moon. For some reason, Kepler was convinced that the Earth was spinning. He reasoned that if he could send people to the moon, they would be able to see the spinning of the Earth in real time. He reasoned that the moon demons could carry people there, or that they could be shot out of a high-powered cannon and be sucked into the moon's gravity. In short, Kepler was a straight lunatic and religiously attached to heliocentrism. And this is also where our modern idea of universal gravitation comes from. And then Galileo, he shared a devout faith in heliocentrism that he wrote about privately with Kepler. Galileo became convinced early in life of the truth of the Copernican theory, but did not openly promote his beliefs until later. He believed and championed Copernicism and the belief that the earth was moving without any evidence at all. These people had religious attachments to putting the earth in motion around the sun. None of this was based on evidence at all. And now we move to Isaac Newton. The impact of Newton's gravity hypothesis accelerated greatly the descent of theoretical science into metaphysics and mythology. In his 1687 work, Principia, Newton simply asserted that there was a law of gravitation that would apply anywhere and everywhere in the universe, despite the fact that Newton knew virtually nothing about any celestial motions outside our so-called solar system. In Sir Isaac Newton and Modern Astronomy, Neville Martin Gwynne writes, quote, "From childhood on, you and I have been beguiled into accepting a cosmological card castle for which there is not a shred of common sense or solid proof. The whole post-Copernican kit and caboodle is a rickety structure of assumptions based on extrapolations gained from theories built on postulates distilled from observations susceptible to alternate interpretations. It is not scientific. It is not even sane. And yet almost the whole of modern astronomy and the sciences related to it are based on that assumption." In The Life of Isaac Newton, Richard Westphal writes that Newton believed geocentric astronomy accompanied a false religion. Newton referred to the ancient worship of the central fire that was the basis for the Pythagorean Philolaus belief in a moving earth back in ancient Greece. Newton wrote, quote, "The rationale of this institution was that the God of nature should be worshipped in a temple that imitates nature, and that the original temple, with the fire in the center, illuminated by 7 lamps representing the planets, symbolized the world." Newton even based universal gravitation on this mystical concept of a central fire, writing, "The common center of gravity of the earth, the sun, and all the planets is to be esteemed the center of the world." So Newton based his ideas of both gravity and a moving earth on these ancient religions, which he believed accurately represented his God of nature. The bottom line is that Kepler and Newton's ideas about the universe were deeply rooted in mysticism. Why would these guys be so adamant that the earth was moving? Where was their evidence? Where were their experiments? What would cause them to rebel against the whole of experience and observation that informs us that the earth is stable and unmoving? Nobody can prove exactly what these guys were thinking, but it seems obvious to me that they were being influenced by a spirit of confusion. They were certainly practicing some form of nature worship, and the important thing to know is that Satan is a liar and turns things upside down. He is the author of confusion. He wants to invert the truth and distort God's word. This is really no different than evolution, where Satan wants us to take the truth of creation and invert it to the point where the creation, or nature itself, becomes the creator. The same way he wants us to take the absolute fixed earth, as proclaimed in the Bible, and turn it into an insignificant wandering planet. The takeaway message here is that these individuals, like Kepler and Newton, that modern academics is based on, were not the hard-nosed scientists that everyone thinks they were, and the popular ideas of heliocentrism and universal gravitation are steeped in mysticism. So after Copernicus, many astronomers, physicists, and scientists staunchly opposed the Copernicus model from the 16th century and up until modern times. Many noted, as some still do today, that there never has been, nor is there now, one piece of evidence in the entire world that conclusively proves the earth is moving. Though the world believes such proof has been around for centuries and the issue is dead, the inescapable fact is that there was no proof for Copernicism in the 16th century, and there remains none in the 21st century. For centuries after Copernicism, scientists used experiments to try and detect the motion of the earth, and none were ever able to. These experiments were not taught to any modern students of astronomy or physics.